I would say that I could probably list all of the stereotypes that exist for Southern culture, many of them probably. Ones that I think are interesting that I could draw some comparisons to, for example, some of my native Nicaraguan culture, are the ways that, well, to begin with, the importance of family and the importance of tradition. The traditions are really different, and the ways that families define roles might be a little bit different, but the importance of family in, say, a Nicaraguan culture and a Southern culture are similar. I would say in terms of food, a lot of tradition and family history and pride and sense of location and self comes from food. I think that's the case for Southern culture, and it's also the case for Nicaraguan culture. So I would say, more than just drawing out aspects of Southern culture that we've got stereotypes about, there is some truth in the importance and value of certain aspects of Southern food, for example, or of the Southern accent, or a connection with history. I think you have a strong sense in a lot of Southern cultures, not just here in the high country of North Carolina, but in more rural parts of the state, as well as over in the coast in more urban areas, outside of Raleigh or outside of Charlotte, for example, that are connected with the generations that have existed in those areas for at least several generations. Those are strong aspects of culture, I think, that are present in what's called Southern culture.
That should be okay. Do you think that the rebel flag or Confederate flag is a specific symbol of racism?
Me personally, I would say that the rebel flag, the Confederate flag that's flown, is connected to racism. That's how I perceive the flag. But I recognize and understand that for other marginalized people of color, they're at a different place with it. They might adopt, and I've talked to students recently who have a different position where they don't feel necessarily that animosity or that racism or that sense of you're not welcome or you're different in a way that whoever is flying the flag or showing it, that it at the very least isn't something personal, right? That it isn't a signal or a symbol that communicates you're not welcome. But for me, I would say when I moved to North Carolina and saw it, initially I would have told you, not knowing a lot about the region, that that's interesting. That's a way that this community communicates their history or where their pride lies. I can tell you also that the Confederate flag, like most other symbols, probably the way they've become commercialized and used in everyday clothing, from t-shirts to beer koozies to bumper stickers to belt buckles, those are widely used by a larger group than just folks who might identify the rebel flag with a strictly historical, generational affiliation. So it gets real muddy, and it's really hard to generalize about the usage of the Confederate flag, the rebel flag, the battle flag, because it's used in so many different ways. I would also say that you would get a variety of different answers from people who use the flag in some way as to why they use it. And that's probably not too different from any other symbol that's connected to a tradition or a heritage or a culture. It loses some of that initial purpose, right? For when, why, for what it was used. But to get back to your initial question, do I see it as a symbol of racism or of oppression or of, at the very least, friction between values and rights? Yeah, I would.
Do you think that maybe maybe the ancestral heritage that people are honoring sometimes when they choose to display the flag, do you think that justifies any of the racism? You know, not necessarily justifies, but justifies the use of the flag. Like, does it make up for the fact that, you know, during the Civil War, the war was about race, which is still a question of debate kind of nowadays. But is it an effective symbol, I guess, for honoring ancestors? Is there any other effective symbol that you might think about?
I think everybody has to make their own determination on that very direct question. For me, not being a black person, but identifying as a marginalized person in the society, I can empathize to a different degree than other people, and I choose to, and I'm able to. So I can see the history, I can see the impact, I can see some of the ways that the flag has been used to be a symbol for movements over the course of our history, and I feel the pain. So when I consider the very brief amount of time when this very specific flag was used to represent a regiment or a battalion or a very specific period in the Confederate history, knowing some of that history and how brief the period of time was when it was actually a symbol used in battle for military purposes, I can't justify or reconcile folks who see it as a symbol of their heritage or of their southern roots or of the history of their family in South Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina, wherever. For me, its association with hate groups, its association with traditions and values that at the time weren't inclusive, I would choose that it wouldn't be appropriate to use it or to reclaim something that was positive or something that wasn't hateful. I don't have that connection for me.
So there's always